resumes feel more kind of free-flowing than like a lot of, at least than I thought they were initially. So yeah, okay. So yeah, so objectives, freedom to move things around and organize them. Other thoughts? So yeah, Lisa didn't mention it so much this time, but one thing that she, just how important those, forget the word, so like those bullet points, you know, so like under each of your activities, like really thinking about using real active verbs to describe what you did. And I loved how she mentioned, you know, putting it really in the context of like what you're doing. So you might think, well, I don't know, I had a job delivering newspapers, which doesn't seem super like applicable to, you know, this job, like working in an environmental lab I'm applying for. But like you can take really any job and pull out highlights that have helped you kind of on your way toward that path. So yeah, so appreciated that. Just the idea that you can take all these experiences and make them relevant, and then really thinking about the words in those bullet points that you pulled out. So cool stuff. Cool stuff. So no class on Wednesday. Our mini fall break is happening, although I guess it's about the same length as our fall break normally is. So what's coming up next? So next Monday, a week from today, we have our second homework assignment due. And this is, you know, one of the things that we try to do when we write is to write very succinctly, very concisely. And so this is it's a website that basically it allows you to copy and paste a piece of your writing into it, and then it comes back with a diagnosis of your writing based on like how trim it is, basically. So I don't know. I think the most critical diagnosis of lots and lots of extra words is like heart attack or something, and then there's like, I don't know, slim or something. I don't know, whatever. But it's an interesting exercise just to think about how efficient our writing is. So I'm going to have, I'll post the instructions for that. I think they're maybe on our Moodle page already, but I'll double check that and make sure those are on there. And so that's due. Just submit that via email on Monday. To take maybe about, I'd say 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes to do. It asks you to insert a piece of your writing on there. So I think what I asked you to do was take that first homework where I asked you, like, how do you think of yourself as a writer? Like, take that assignment and put it in there. If you don't have that assignment, that's okay. Just really any sample of your writing that you've submitted for a class, or honestly, just any writing. The idea is to kind of let this website take a look at that and see what suggestions it gives as far as ways to tighten up your writing. And then we'll talk a little bit more about tightening up our writing, being really succinct the next Wednesday. Also, on Monday, a week from today, we're going to have another in-class writing time day. And I just wanted to make sure that I heard y'all right. It sounded like everyone is able to bring in a laptop to write with. So I guess, and to work on. So I guess I won't try to reserve a classroom that has, you know, a bunch of computers for us to work on. If there's anyone who would prefer working in one of those rooms, you can either let me know now or just shoot me an email. I'm happy to reserve a room like downstairs. They have a couple rooms that have you know, computers with every seat. So just let me know. But otherwise, that's going to be an in-class writing day next week because your literature review, statement of need, and works cited is due on Wednesday. Okay, so like a week from Wednesday, so like 9 days, yeah. But so we're going to have in-class writing time the class period before that, Steve. So if you have questions about all that. So you'll basically have, an hour of work time in here for that. So and bring something in to work on. And again, if you'd rather work in a room that has desktops, just let me know. I can reserve a room that does. Yeah, so those of y'all that are still, I thought the annotated bibliographies were really well done. I think you guys are all off to a really good start. And again, those so some pretty substantial feedback as far as like topic content organization goes. So if you have any questions about what to put on that, just let me know. All right. Cool. Any questions about class, logistics, where we're going, that kind of stuff? Okay. Let's see here. So we're going to talk a little bit about organization of writing today. I've got a couple activities. I think for me, this is the part of my writing that I'm working the most on right now. I think that how we choose to present the information that we would like our reader to get is really important. And we're actually in a situation right now. We have a manuscript from our work in Nepal, and submitted it to a journal, and they said that they wouldn't be able to publish it because it was too it wasn't written for a broad enough audience, if that makes sense. Their thought was, well, gosh, if somebody doesn't work on fishes in the Himalayas, like this paper might not be all that interesting to them. So myself as a lead author, then I kind of go back to the drawing board and I think, all right, how, it's the same study, but how can I present that in a way that highlights the importance, right? And of course, that makes you think again as an author, like what is the relevance, right, of my research to people that don't work on fishes in the Himalayas, like why care kind of thing. And so that takes me back to this thought process of, okay, what are the ideas that I want my audience or the journal editor to really understand, right? And so again, the importance of audience, the importance of that journey that you're going to take your audience on, right? What's the idea I want them to get first? Then what's the next idea? And by the time they've read my whole introduction, what do I want them to have understood and accepted? And then how do I tie those ideas together? And to me, that kind of question is all about content and organization, right? So again, this is a handout that I have on our Moodle page. And this is, I put this together over the summer just because I was trying to think of like, there are so many pieces of writing, right? You think of someone who's a good writer. Maybe, how is their spelling, right? How is their sentence structure? How's their paragraph structure? How's their topic? There are all these different pieces to being a good writer. And you'll find that some of these you're better at than others, just like everything in life. And so again, I like to think of it starting at the top down in the sense that I don't particularly care about my spelling. So when I go back to rewrite my introduction, I'm not even going to think about my spelling and my word choice until I've got my content out there and organized. So, I'm kind of here, I've got my topic, my depth of research. I need to think about what are my main ideas now and what are the sequence of those ideas. And then some of these things, right? So you've got your research, you're maybe in here right now. You're doing your research, you're thinking about the main ideas you want to pull up in your grant proposal. You want to think about those sequence of ideas. Now, in the sciences, we kind of have a natural model of a scientific paper. We generally start really broad to grab our audience's attention. Maybe something, I might start out with something like, despite an abundance of research in the last few decades, extinction rates in aquatic habitats still greatly exceed those of terrestrial habitats. That might be a big, broad statement that might interest folks, right, that don't necessarily have any interest in the Himalayas and/or Himalayan fishes. And so for yourself, right, think about the main ideas, sequence of ideas, how do you start, and then how do you move in? And then how do you transition between ideas, right? They should flow pretty naturally. And so these ideas here are really all, and it's really important. It's really important. So as you're writing your literature review, which is the next part of your grant proposal that's due, just be thinking this way, right? Don't worry about getting that first sentence that sounds beautiful. Don't worry about that. If it's me, sometimes I start out with a piece of scrap paper and a pen and a desk that doesn't have anything on it. And I just think about what are the ideas that I want the person to get across, right? That I want to get across. All right, and then each of those ideas, in all likelihood, will become a paragraph. And sometimes you consolidate paragraphs, sometimes you split them as your research goes and you find more stuff on this information and less stuff over here. But we're kind of going to be working in this area here today as far as that's what we're doing. And so then after this piece is done, that's when we'll start to think about, all right, let me read these sentences over. How do they sound? You know, how is my use of commas? Am I aware that I've class? I can put them in wherever I feel they're needed. And we're going to talk about that a little bit next week. So all these different things, right? And the word choice. So don't even worry about this yet. We're thinking about ideas and transitions. And I put this together not to give you one more piece of paper to worry about, but may not. This works for me. To me, the most important thing is just put some thought into it, right? We're so busy. Sometimes we don't step back and think about what we're doing and how we're doing it, right? So writing is something that you're going to do a lot of, in all likelihood. I don't know, just spend some time. Think about, how do you go about writing? What do you think about that process? Because I found that when I step back and kind of think on that meta level, some things come to me real quickly, So anyway, this is the framework that might work for you. It might not, but just be thinking, right, of this process so that it isn't just, oh my God, I got to write a paper. It's like, all right, I need a topic. Then let's go do some research. And so the step-by-step idea, I think, makes it a little bit easier. Cool. All right. So y'all have been thinking about paragraphs in some way, shape, or form since what? Elementary school? I don't know. When do they teach kids to write in paragraphs? I know there's like the 5-paragraph essay model they teach you about in like middle school or whatever. I don't know. So you've at least been thinking about paragraphs to some extent for quite a while. So why do we use paragraphs? What is the purpose of paragraphs? Why don't y'all just turn in like 5 pages of like free-flowing prose? You can do that maybe if you're a creative writing major. Why don't we do that? Why do we use paragraphs? Separates thoughts. Other thoughts on how they separate thoughts, or why we use paragraphs. Yeah, for sure. I can tell you, as someone who has read lots and lots of papers, your papers definitely feel more approachable when I see indents and spaces and rather than. So I don't know, I kind of think about it this way, right? We're organizing information. It's kind of like if you're at the farmer's market and you want to buy some tomatoes, but you're not quite sure what kind of tomatoes you want to buy. Well, hopefully the person who's come from that farm has organized their stuff in a way that it'll help you find what you need. So you've got, I don't know where the chicken is, but there's, you know, all these different things organized in different bins in different ways. And so when you go there to find the kind of tomato that you need, you're really dependent on that farmer to have organized it in a good way to get at. Now you might say, but David, I can just ask the farmer like where the Roma tomatoes are and they'll tell me. Yes, but when I'm reading your paper, I can't ask you, okay, like now where is your main point? Like show me, like where is your note? So the analogy is perhaps not completely applicable, but you get the idea. And so translating this to the realm of writing, the idea then, right, is that each paragraph has an idea. It is a mission, and all the sentences in that paragraph work towards that idea. So what makes a paragraph awesome? What do you think? You guys have written, I don't know, it'd be interesting to know how many paragraphs you've written in your academic lives. Yeah.
Some sort of like, maybe like summary statement in the beginning, or like someone tied in from like the paragraph, or someone just like helped with the overall. So, writing.
Yeah, cool. So a couple things there. Having sort of an overall summary. So you've probably heard the word topic sentence, right? That's the idea, but not just that it ties in with the other themes so that we have paragraph to paragraph, some transition. Like there's a reason this paragraph goes after this one, right? Because it follows. I've set the tone for that paragraph. Okay, yeah, other thoughts? It'd be interesting if you could rank all the paragraphs you've ever written in your life in order from like most awesome to least awesome. Wouldn't that be interesting? I wonder what the best paragraph is that you've ever written. You ever wondered that? Now you have. And you probably won't again, but that's okay. Just a couple thoughts. So this idea of unity and coherence, and I'll put this PowerPoint on our Moodle page, so don't feel like you have to jot all these things down as we're going. Just if you can think through these themes, that'd be awesome. So what do we mean by unity and coherence? First of all, unity. What is it? What are we getting at there?
All sentences are like related.
Yeah, they're all doing the same thing. They're all pulling the same way, right? If you're in a tug of war, does anybody do tug of war anymore? Is that like a? Remember in camp? I don't know. I never did it, but I saw pictures and it looked like fun. You have this big rope. You've got people on either side pulling each way. It's very conflict oriented. I think to be honest, in society, we need less conflict and more cooperation. But regardless, you're each pulling a rope, and you usually got like a mud pit in the middle so that when you lose, you feel really bad. And you're like, oh man, I'm no good. But anyway, the team that usually wins, well, they're usually bigger, and I don't know. But they're all pulling in the same direction, right? And so think of your paragraph as like one end of this like tug of war. Like all those sentences have to be pulling in the same direction. They've got the same thing that they're trying to do. How nice would it be if at the start of the tug of war, the other team's like, we're going to pull the same way you are. And they run on the other side and they just like pull. Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be awesome? So the idea of unity then, like there's one clear focus. So, you know, sometimes, especially when I'm first writing a paragraph, I'll come back and look at it again and I'll be like, you know, this sentence, it doesn't really belong there anymore, right? So you want it all to have a clear focus, no tangential or off-topic material. So now when you think about what coherence means, coherent means that it's easy to understand. So you want all those sentences to connect well. So each sentence has a purpose. You know, not only are they all talking about, you know, the reasons that freshwater species experience higher rates of extinction than terrestrial species, they're necessary, right? I'm not going to say the same thing over and over and over, right? So they connect well to each other. They all have their own little role. I think the tug of war analogy falls apart now because they're all doing the same thing anyway. Okay, so if you think of coherence, just a couple ways, right, to let you know if your paragraph, and so these are things that readers look for as well, right? Your paragraph is going to be coherent if you're repeating keywords, right? So those are coming back again and again. Freshwater, extinction, parallel structure. Now, what do we mean by parallel structure? Have you heard of that before? This is more the case if we have like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and let's say that I'm talking about, you know, like species, threats to species extinction in Asia, South America, and North America, right? I want to kind of talk about the same things in each paragraph so I can connect them together. So this really has to do with kind of how we set our paragraphs up a little more, and it makes them coherent because we can see what's coming because we've seen it in the paragraph before. As was mentioned, transitional words and phrases. So I might lead off saying something like, you know, something to do with like the risk of extinction in aquatic species. But they might be like, okay, well, that's interesting, but like, why'd you go to Nepal, right? And so if I'm trying to have a real broad opening paragraph, I might say, however, in some parts of the world, we've been unable to quantify extinction rates because of a lack of information, right? And so then I might say, some of the most understudied parts of the world also have the highest rates of extinction because those are places where people are reliant on them. So you want to connect them and have those transitional words and phrases. Now, it's real important in a paragraph to have the same point of view intent. So we'll go through an example here in just a second, but you know, we write mostly in the third person, and you generally want to keep it that way unless you're pulling in personal experience, which you can do. But within a paragraph, I would break out a separate paragraph if I was going to bust out first person, like personal experience. I'd rock that in like a separate paragraph probably. So, and right, you don't want to jump back. Like, it'd be really cool if we had a time machine, but like, hopefully, like, I won't need one just to read your paper, like to go into like past, present, future, like all that stuff. Like, so keep it consistent. And like with a lot of things, I wouldn't worry about this, all this stuff on your first draft. For me, the first draft is just about getting it out there. Just get it on the paper, get it on the computer. But then when you go back and you read it over, you want to be checking for these things, thinking about coherence. All right, so topic sentences were mentioned. I love topic sentences, and not just a little. So this is a sentence that's announcing the main focus of the paragraph. So our family has been watching the show on Netflix, The Crown. Anybody watch that? So back in the day, like, if the queen is like working on her queen stuff on her desk, and someone comes to visit her, they don't just walk in and be like, hey, how's it going? No. One of the servants of the household comes in and announces the person, right? And then the queen is prepared for like what conversation she's going to have with this person and all these other things, right? Topic sentences are the same way. They're like announcing your paragraph, right? So it'd be like, and now, like, introducing Princess Harley from Wilshire Park. We live in the same neighborhood. And like, and be like, okay, I know, all right, I probably know what she's going to talk about. Like, okay, I know what's going on. All right, it's good. So topic sentences like that. It lets your reader know what's coming up. They prepare their brain for what's going to happen to them next. Hopefully it will be pleasant. Does it always have to come first? Oh yeah, I could see that working. Perhaps you may have wondered who is coming to visit you today. It is Princess Harley from Wilshire Park. Yeah, you could do that, right? You could kind of tease it a little bit and then come into the topic. Yeah, any other way we could start a paragraph off that doesn't start with a topic sentence? Yeah, you can start off with a question. And that's a great example of something that could grab your reader's attention, especially if you haven't used any questions yet. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I guess too, like, in my writing, like all, like sometimes I'll put like a short sentence relating to the paragraph above, like if you're talking about like all types of extinction, like fish aren't the only like species experiencing this extinction, and then like put another topic sentence about like other.
Yeah, perfect. So I've been talking about fish and their extinctions, but hey, I had data on birds as well, right? Although that would be weird with my whole aquatic terrestrial thing. But let's just say, well, but birds, they eat fish, sadly, and invertebrates too. And some fish eat birds, but not that many, and it's really rare. Yeah, so I might say like, fish are not the only species experiencing increasing extinction rates. Rates of population reduction in birds across the globe have been increasing as well. Yeah, and then the paragraph could go into birds, right? So yeah, absolutely. So you could do a transition. So, you know, the first sentence could be a transition. I like the idea of Steve, get creative, can be a question, but there just has to be a topic sentence pretty soon in there. Like your reader shouldn't have to like hunt too deep for that topic sentence, right? So it should be in there pretty close. So this is really, really key. These are like the signs on those bins at the farmer's market. So like, you know what's in the bin, right? You're not like, I don't know, these kind of look like tomatoes, but there's some peppers in here. Like, did they just like fall in, or are these meant to be? Is this like a tomato pepper combo kind of thing? Like, we need like the sentence there to tell us. Okay, so let's think about organizing a paragraph. So there are a couple of different ways you can put your paragraphs together. The first is chronologically. So you could narrate a paragraph. It's telling a story from start to finish. Thinking on your own sort of topics, what could be a way that this might work in your topic? And maybe it doesn't, and that's okay too.
I mean, I feel like we just did it in the cover letter, like on the prompt that we got. It kind of says it's like this is the narrative, kind of want to explain it, like take us chronologically through the order of events and like what you kind of gain from that. So I feel like it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. Yeah, cover letter, absolutely. Yep. From the moment I was born, I had dreamed of submitting a grant proposal to the Gillette Foundation. As I began to speak, I could finally articulate my desire to submit a proposal to this fabulous organization. During my time in elementary and middle school, I honed my writing and speaking skills so that perhaps one day I could submit a grant to this fabulous organization. And at that point, they're like, well, at least they can write. I don't know what they're going to do. And anyway, yeah, so you could tell that narrative start to finish. Okay. Here's an example. This is a real example. Someone like to read this example paragraph to us? And it's a little more challenging now with the masks. I know you're all reading it already, so just say it out loud. Who wants to read it? Right? Who's going to volunteer? Thank you, Yen.
One North Carolina man found quite a surprise last year while fishing in the Catawba River. A piranha.
Dun, dun, dun.
Jerry Melton of Gastonia reeled in a 1 pound, 4 ounce fish with an unusual bite. Melton could not identify it, but a nearby fisherman did. Melton at first could not believe he had caught a piranha. He said, "That ain't no piranha. They ain't got piranha around here." Melton was right. The fish is native to South America, and North Carolina prohibits owning the fish as a pet or introducing the species to local waterways. The sharp-toothed carnivorous fish likely found itself in the Catawba River when its illegal owner released the fish after growing tired of it. Wildlife officials hoped that the piranha was the only of its kind in the river, but locals are thinking twice before they wade in the water.
Anybody swum? What's the past tense of swim? Swam or swum?
Swam.
Anybody swam in the See, I don't even worry about grammar either. Anybody swam in the Catawba River recently? Yeah, we were there last year. We were not eaten by piranhas, but this is a true story. So you see, yeah. So it's like kind of a narrative.
How long ago did they find it?
So this was actually done in 2019. So it's actually 2018. That's when they found it. So if it's reproduced, it's had time to establish a very large population by now. Yeah. Okay, so there's one way of putting our so it's like telling a story, right? You kind of feel like, I don't know, sitting around the campfire and somebody's telling you a piranha story. So so with the narration then, we're telling the story moving from start to finish. Another way we could do it is to organize it a little more descriptively. Maybe we're more interested in like getting some key information. Like we want our reader to know somebody caught this piranha, but maybe we want to make sure that there's some information that gets across, right? So description, what something looks, smells, tastes, sounds, or feels like. Sorry. Yeah, and so you can organize this a couple different ways. By topic, you could talk about different parts of the piranha, or you could talk about its ecology. So it might look something like this. Somebody like to read this one? Thank you. So a little bit different kind of a paragraph, right? It's trying to do something different. It's just getting some information around to us. Now, does it still have a coherent flow to it with a topic sentence? What do y'all think about that?
Makes it sound scarier.
Yeah. Right. Now it's a scissor-like bite used for puncture and tearing, which sounds like something you want to be swimming around where you're in the water, right? But the little ones only the size of a thumbnail. They puncture and tear small things. They're kind of cute. Just your toes. So is this, how do we feel about this topic sentence here? They are omnivorous, so they eat other things besides human flesh. Any thoughts on that topic sentence?
The whole paragraph is not about like the teeth, but it's all about kind of the fish. So I feel like it could be better, more general.
Yeah, you're right. It doesn't really encapsulate the whole paragraph. It starts a little broader, right? It says they're omnivorous, they're this or that, and then it gets into more detail. So we could probably come up with a little more coherent topic sentence if we want to, but yeah, maybe sometimes if we just start broad and get down a little more narrow, maybe we don't have to include everything. Can we think of like a way that we can make this like more inclusive? So it talks about other things besides, for instance, just what they eat, right? So this topic sentence just really talks about what they eat in their teeth. But we talk about more than that in the paragraph, right? Anything we could add on this topic sentence so that it encapsulates everything in that paragraph? Sure, yeah, we could say, yeah, piranha are, I don't know, I would probably say small, because usually they're pretty small, are small omnivorous freshwater. Would really give the whole message of the whole paragraph if you wanted, if you so desired. So yeah, so we can organize our paragraphs as like a narrative, as a description, or we could talk about a process. And I'll give an example of the same kind of thing, this one as well. So yeah, so how do we feel about the topic sentence here? Yeah, it really tells you what the paragraph is going to do, doesn't it? Yeah, exactly. You can safely swim with them, but it's just important to know how to do it. Then it goes on and it does that. Yeah, so a more coherent topic sentence here. Yeah, so this is another way that we can organize our paragraph as well. And so yeah, you'll notice different types of topic sentences based on how we set up our paragraphs And, you know, I don't know that these paragraphs necessarily would have to flow in that way, but what do you think about the order that was there? So the idea is in the first paragraph versus the second and third paragraph. Does it kind of make sense the way they flow? The first one was like the story, right? It was like, hey, Catawba River, piranha. Grabs your attention, right? You're probably going to read the next paragraph, right? And then it goes into a little more about educative information, and then like, I guess, what it means to you, like only swim in the Catawba River at night, you know, and in the wet season. So it's a lot safer swimming at night, like when there's a flood, right? No, we don't want to go there. So you can see a little bit about the paragraphs there. And there weren't necessarily any clear transitions, but the order kind of sort of made sense, I guess. All right. So thinking about how we organize, get that little zoom thing out of there. So we can go a couple of different ways. So we can also, So think about organization. So one way to organize things is to separate things into groups. Someone want to read this paragraph for us? How does it know that it's me talking, you guys? Who's watching this? Oh, sorry. Someone else want to read this one? All right, so what are some things that this paragraph could use to make it stronger?
I don't think the topic sentence lines up with the.
Absolutely, yeah. What might be like a theme here? So a topic sentence, right, is introducing. So yeah, definitely a weak topic sentence. What might be a topic sentence that we could put on here that would sort of grab the coherent theme for the paragraph?
I almost thought they could just take the concluding sentence and move it to the top and then do another concluding sentence.
They could. They absolutely could, right? This happens sometimes when we do research, right? We'll kind of pile the research on, and then we'll say we might at the end say what it means, but yeah, that could definitely go up on top here. What else? Any other thoughts?
Do you think from experience, this seems like one of those paragraphs where the student just started writing and then didn't know where they were going until they got there? And
Yeah.
just left it.
Happens to all of us, right? Yeah. Which is okay. Like that's a great first draft, right? And then then the next step is exactly coming back and thinking about like, what's the theme of the paragraph, right? Should it all be one paragraph or break it up? Any other thoughts? Does it work out fairly well if we take this and put it up on top here? We feel pretty good about that paragraph then? Couple nodding heads, yeah. So, we could do either way. We could come up with a new topic sentence if we feel that we need a concluding sentence. If we feel we've presented enough information here that we need to give it a recap, we could just throw a topic sentence on the top. Or as Jaden said, if it's a short paragraph that we feel, does not hit them with a ton of info, maybe just one topic sentence is good. What about this one? Give it a look over and see what you think it needs. There's something here that doesn't really stick with the theme of the paragraph. What is it?
The second to last paragraph or sentence.
Yeah. So if our theme is, helping students from small rural high schools to adjust to college, this sentence is a little broader. All of us, when we first start in college, it's a new situation, may make poor decisions about money management. Yeah, that one doesn't really stick out. So sometimes we read through a paragraph and we realize that there's a part that could be pulled out. So, then the next question would be, does that fit with my whole essay theme? In which case, I need to develop a new paragraph that it makes sense in. Or if not, sometimes when we're doing research, we find a piece of information that we think is kind of neat, but then when we look at the flow of ideas in our whole paper, we kind of realize that it doesn't really fit, right? Okay, so yeah, better need ideas. We have enough time for this last thing I wanted to do. But in case you're curious, this is it. It's not even a piranha, you guys. It was a pacu. It was a fish called a pacu. They only eat fruit. But they have big teeth because they've got to eat fruit, right? You got to like chomp on the fruit that falls into those tropical rivers in the wet season. So it turns out it wasn't even a piranha. You can go ahead and swim in the Catawba River. It's fine. But they look pretty darn similar if you don't know the differences in the teeth. Okay. So the final thing I wanted to do, and we'll just do this with as much time as we have, is thinking a little bit about organization of ideas. So these are a bunch of sentences that I've chopped up. And I'd just like you to think about how you would organize them into paragraphs. Because I feel like this is kind of the stage that y'all are at after you've got your annotated bibliography. So you've got all these interesting facts that are related to your topic. But the next question is, how do you go about organizing them? And so, what?
There's so many sentences.
Oh, sorry. Everybody but Allie gets to do it. I know. So many sentences, perhaps so little time. So I don't know. This is kind of like something you probably did in elementary school. So yeah, just start laying them out. And you're not being graded on this, Harley. Don't worry. I know there's a lot of them. So just start thinking about, maybe kind of organize them into little groups based on what might seem like a coherent paragraph. And I don't know. We'll take how much time you need, maybe 5-10 minutes. Oh, really? Oh, no. Oh, really? I would say at this point, just keep what you have. And if anyone else. I'll find a way to incorporate it. Okay. Although, Jay, that's actually a good idea. It might be worth asking. Once everyone has their sentences out, maybe we can ask who doesn't have that one. Yeah. So if you've got them organized into what look like paragraphs, if you haven't already, come up with a topic sentence for each paragraph. How many people have already come up with topic sentences for paragraphs? All right, well, maybe we'll see what y'all have come up with. So first of all, how many paragraphs or how many themes / paragraphs did y'all come up with? 3? How many people had come up with 3 paragraphs? Cool. How many people came up with 2 paragraphs? Cool. How many people came up with 4 paragraphs? Yeah, I think there's different ways you could organize this. So maybe someone who came up with 3 paragraphs, share perhaps the theme of the 3 paragraphs. I forget who all had their hands up for 3. So whoever you were, if you had 3.
I would say I got 2.5 paragraphs. I don't know what to do with human system on biodiversity for cultural symbols.
Okay.
And I have it divided up into the effects of global warming and then the fisheries.
Okay. So you have effects of global warming. And then the fisheries, So the things like, yeah, so that's one way we could do it. We could have effects of global warming and fisheries. What about the ones that are talking about like why global warming is occurring. Did you kind of put that into the whole theme of like what they're doing?
I have like global temperatures are rising because of emissions, and then the stuff about the IPCC, and then I have all of what all global warming costs, and then.
Okay. Okay. So we could organize it that way. Yeah. Anyone else who had 2 paragraphs care to share their 2-paragraph organization? Yeah. Okay. So 1 paragraph was effects of climate change on the ecosystem, and 1 was effects of climate change on the economy.
Yeah, specifically fisheries and the different. I kind of put a lot of the effects of change in as to why we should worry about fisheries.
Cool. Someone who had 3 paragraphs, care to share their organizational themes? Yeah.
I kind of had a paragraph that just intros climate change, and then talks about like the effects on ecosystem services and the effects on like, and then finally like how it affects how we depend on that biodiversity for food and cultural symbolism. I kind of just threw the cultural symbolism thing at the end. Because, yeah, but I think it's important for the, I guess fish are culturally symbolic for a lot of places as well, especially as a food source.
Yeah, so you kind of threw it together with like the human dependence on ecosystem. Okay. Yeah. Anyone else with 3 paragraphs care to share their structure? I think there were several folks that had 3. Any other 3-paragraph folks?
I kind of like carbon dioxide and like temperature increase, and then like that temperature increase on the environment, and then stuff like that. But like more of the dietary and fisheries stuff.
So 1 paragraph that was kind of discussing the temperature increase and the causes, and then another one on the like
ecological environmental replication.
Cool. How about someone that had 4 paragraphs?
Yeah, I like kept a real broad beginning of global temperatures, but I separated the IPCC report as just like a completely separate paragraph. And then went into the fisheries and Ocean City and kept why the 4th paragraph of like why humans depend on biodiversity, all 3 topics on the last one.
Okay. Yeah, and that IPCC report too, that's one where I'm sure you could get more info if you wanted to expand it out. All right. I mean, I don't know that there's a real right answer. I think when I put this together, I was thinking along the lines of 3 paragraphs, but I think you could go either way as long as you've got a strong topic sentence to organize it, right? So yeah, so this is probably where y'all are right now. You've got some factoids, some information. So just be thinking about how it hangs together thematically in your paragraphs, and think about topics. All right, awesome. So go ahead and put those back in those Ziploc bags for me. I may or may not reuse those. We'll see. But yeah, so with your literature review being due soon, this is really a big step in doing that, right? Is organizing ideas into a format that works well for you and your readers. So I'll look forward to seeing those. And yeah, have a great break. You can say have a great break on Monday. There you go. First class on Monday.